All right, shalom, and welcome to another lesson. Today's lesson, we want to go into, or before we go into the lesson, we want to say Barakatah Yahweh and Barakatah Yahweh Shai. So, what we want to do is go into something called history. This is going to be like an ongoing series, Lord's Wills, as Elder Tahar likes to do on some of his series, make it a ongoing thing. And we call it history because history covers a lot. And the lesson that we want to go into today is called historical proof of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. And I want to give shout outs and thanks to the brothers out in Chicago. They had came across some information the Lord gave them on the so-called Indian tribes of the so-called Americas. And they had gone into it, they did a lesson on it, and they broke certain things down that was beautiful. So we wanted to take that same information that they brought out, because there's a lot of information in there, and hit certain points I'm sure they already hit, but we want to kind of go over some stuff and bring out some scriptures, pertaining to these things. Now, it's not anything that's, we don't have like a set, like scripture set, written down, like as far as, to go to this scripture, to break this scripture down or whatever. Right, it's not scripted. I mean, even though we do have some scriptures written down, but it's a point-by-point basis. So whatever historical proof that was given by these so-called Europeans that came over here, that conquered Israel, whatever they gave, and they mentioned that these Israelites did according to the scriptures, we're going to go to the scriptures and show you in the scriptures where they got that information from. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to just get started, and Salaki, brother. We're just going to get started, and I'm going to have a brother read. I don't know whoever wants to read the article, and we're just going to get started. Just start wherever you see the yellow, okay. And then when we get to the scriptures, we'll get the scriptures.
All right. The Lost Tribes of Israel is the title. Although information from more than one source appears, the contents of most of this site is composed entirely of excerpts from a multi-volume 19th century work by British scholar Lord Kingsborough.
Right, so now this Lord Kingsborough, what he basically did was he went and see, because when them Spaniards and them Europeans was coming over here, they were documenting history of what they saw pertaining to who they call the Indians. And they saw certain things, that they were doing. And, them being learned men, some of them anyway, they saw that, look, the things that these people here are doing are similar or identical or the same as the Israelites in the Bible. So this guy Kingsborough, which was an English scholar, he took all those different documents that were written down of all these Europeans, and he compiled it into one big volume of books. And he gave like an account of, let's say, Issachar, the so-called Mexicans, or the Inca Indians and the Mayan Indians, and the Muskogee and this Indian and that Indian, and what they did was he compiled all of that into one big volume to show that when the Spaniards and the conquistadors and them different European explorers came over to this side of the world, they compared a lot of the things that the people on this side of the world were doing to Israel. Now, I know this is going to hurt a lot of you assholes' feelings out there that believe that only the so-called Negroes are Israelites. But you know what? The truth has to be told, and GMS is the ones that tell it.
That's right. It says, 19th century work by British scholar Lord Kingsborough, Antiquities of Mexico, the volume and page of which are noted after each excerpt. The author spent years researching the records of Europe's first visitors to the New World. As his compilation of the logs is deep and thorough, it should be noted that the many comparisons of native people's customs, etc., to Jewish people's customs, etc., it says, were made within the framework of Kingborough's own perspective and from that of the highly authoritative sources whom he has quoted. Therefore, the Therefore, the multiple similarities he and his sources have observed may not have been exclusively to the customs, etc., of the one tribe of Israel, Judah, with which they would have been familiar. Rather, the analogies they described may have unknowingly been to the collective tribes, since there presumably would have been discernible closeness in their traits.
Right, so basically what he's saying is that you had the different tribes, they had their own, all of Israel had a certain custom. They had laws, statutes, commandments. We had a certain custom. But then each tribe might have had a certain custom among them that would make them distinct from the other tribes. I'll give you an example. I don't know if any brother knows what that scripture is, but in the book of Joshua, I believe it is, or the book of Judges, there was a certain, right, there was a certain tribe that there was a certain Hebrew word that they would pronounce a certain way. What's that? Judges, right? There was a certain, if your brothers know where it's at, get it real quick. There was a certain word that a Hebrew word that they would pronounce a certain way. Now, the Ephraimites couldn't pronounce that word that particular way, So then, if they were to say that they were of this particular tribe, of that particular tribe, they would know that they were lying just by the way that they pronounced that particular word. You got it? Okay, good. So we're going to read that.
All right, this is the book of Judges, the 12th chapter, and the 4th verse. I'll read from the top. Verse 1. And the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together and went northward and said unto Jephthah, Wherefore passest thou over to fight against the children of Ammon, and didst not call us to go with thee? We will burn thine house upon thee with fire. And Jephthah said unto them, I and my people were at great strife with the children of Ammon, and when I called you, ye delivered me not out of their hands. And when I saw that ye delivered me not, I put my life in my hands and passed over against the children of Ammon. And the Lord delivered them into my hand. Wherefore then are ye come up unto me this day to fight against me? Then Jephthah gathered together all the men of Gilead and fought with Ephraim, and the men of Gilead smote Ephraim, because they said, Ye Gileadites are fugitives of Ephraim among the Ephraimites and among the Manassites. And the Gileadites took the passages of Jordan before the Ephraimites. And it was so that when those Ephraimites which were escaped said, Let me go over, that the men of Gilead said unto him, Art thou an Ephraimite? If he said, Nay, then they said unto him, Say now Shibboleth. And he said, Sibboleth, for he could not frame to pronounce it right. Then they took him and slew him at the passages of Jordan, and there fell at that time of the Ephraimites 42,000.
So that just shows you that there were certain Hebrew words that the Ephraimites couldn't pronounce that the other tribes could pronounce. Now that brings me back to so-called high school. There was this one Judite cat. Me and him was cool, and Ephraim, if you know Ephraim, the so-called Puerto Ricans, there's certain English words that they can't pronounce, like precision, incision, position, things of that, words like that, because of the rotating R sound that Ephraim uses. So he like looked at me. He said, man, you a Puerto Rican, man, and he said, and I forgot what I said to him, and I said, pronounce this word. He said, say precision. And I said, precision. He said, oh, okay. Because most Puerto Ricans back then couldn't say that, because of this, because I speak Spanish, but, I primarily speak English, so I was able to pronounce a word that they couldn't pronounce. So it kind of brought me back just now to that point. So there
or vice versa, you got like Ephraim, they roll that R.
Right.
Like a lot of Judites, they might speak Spanish. When it come time to roll that R, they can't, That's another thing. The Ephraim rolls their R's. So even Issachar rolls their R's different from how Ephraim rolls their R's. So it's another little thing, another little difference.
So now basically what it is there were certain different customs that differentiated each one of the tribes. So there were certain things that you might see in the Israelite here in the Americas that it may be similar to the Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, but they were a little different.
It says